Hi everyone, I hope you are all doing well. In this video, I will be giving you a summary of Leon Festinger's cognitive dissonance theory, so let's jump right in. Festinger identified cognitive dissonance as the distressing mental state caused by an inconsistency between a person's two beliefs, or an inconsistency between a person's belief and action. Festinger also asserts that individuals avoid dissonance and seek consistency. Thus, dissonance motivates a change in either an attitude or behavior. The greater the importance of an issue, the more significant the amount of dissonance. Similarly, the greater the inconsistency between our beliefs and behavior, the more substantial the dissonance. Smokers may feel cognitive dissonance. For example, someone might believe that smoking is dangerous to their health, but still smoke cigarettes. To avoid cognitive dissonance, smokers can either stop using cigarettes or change their views about smoking. To change their perceptions about smoking, smokers can either first trivialize or deny the adverse health effects of smoking. This is the most common method. Second, smokers can counter negative thoughts about smoking with positive thoughts. For example, individuals might argue that smoking relaxes them. And lastly, smokers can convince themselves that the adverse health outcomes don't apply to them because they're only moderate smokers. Festinger proposed 3 hypotheses concerned with cognitive dissonance. The first hypothesis claims that selective exposure can help prevent dissonance. Selective exposure refers to people's tendency to avoid information that would create cognitive dissonance because it is incompatible with their current beliefs. In other words, individuals avoid information that is inconsistent with their own opinions. For example, the selective exposure hypothesis explains why smokers may avoid anti-tobacco campaigns. Individuals can use entertainment and humor to get around selective exposure. Warm personal relationships, however, are the best environment for ideas that would otherwise seem threatening. Festinger's second hypothesis asserts that post-decision dissonance creates a need for reassurance. Post-decision dissonance refers to the strong doubts experienced after making a significant close-call decision that is difficult to reverse. 3 conditions heighten post-decision dissonance. First, issue importance. The more significant an issue, the greater post-decision dissonance experienced. Second, the longer an individual takes to choose between 2 options. And finally, the greater the difficulty involved in reversing a decision, the more post-decision dissonance. For example, buying a car often prompts post-decision dissonance. Individuals may wonder if they got the best deal or the suitable model. Encouragement and support are needed to reduce post-decision dissonance. Festinger's final hypothesis is called the minimal justification hypothesis. This hypothesis maintains that the best way to stimulate an attitude change is to offer the minimum incentive necessary to induce compliance. So, the less reward or punishment you give someone to change their actions or attitudes, the less dissonance they will likely experience. Conventional wisdom suggests that to change a behavior, you first alter an attitude. Festinger's minimal justification hypothesis reverses this sequence, claiming that the best way to change an attitude is to change behavior. 3 revisions have been made to Festinger's original theory. Most persuasion scholars today subscribe to at least one of these 3 revisions. Social psychologist Elliot Anderson introduced the first revision. Anderson argued that psychological rather than logical inconsistencies cause dissonance. In other words, Anderson believed that dissonance is created by an inconsistency between a cognition and our self-concept. Anderson would argue that a smoker would only feel dissonance if they perceive smoking as inconsistent with their self-concept. For example, a smoker might be motivated to quit if they perceive smoking as incompatible with their self-image as a health-conscious individual. Joel Cooper, a Princeton psychologist, offers another revision to Festinger's original theory. Cooper argues that we experience dissonance when we believe our actions have unnecessarily hurt another person. For instance, a smoker might be motivated to quit if they saw their smoking as potentially harmful to their children. Their kids might inhale secondhand smoke or imitate their parents themselves. Stanford psychologist Claude Steele presented the final revision to Festinger's theory. Steele argues that self-esteem can help reduce dissonance. Steele believes people are motivated to maintain an overall self-image of moral adequacy. Thus, denial, forgetfulness, and trivialization can be used as alternatives to attitude change, but only for a person with high self-esteem. For over 50 years, cognitive dissonance theory has remained an important and exciting consideration for scholars. However, despite the impact of Festinger's theory, his work has been critiqued for lacking in relative simplicity and falsifiability. Cornell psychologist Daryl Bem critiques Festinger's theory for being too convoluted. According to Bem, self-perception is a more simple explanation. Self-perception theory claims that we determine our attitudes by simply observing our behavior. Other scholars have found dissonance challenging to test. Festinger never identified a way to measure the degree of dissonance. University of Wisconsin psychologist Patricia Devine presented the dissonance thermometer, a gauge of a person's dissonance. However, dissonance remains challenging to test. That concludes my summary of cognitive dissonance theory. Thank you for watching.